Welcome to another episode of Bring Out Your Undead. I'm Megan, and I reanimated both Casey and Miaca to continue our multi-part conversation on vampires in D&D 5th edition. This episode is called Vampires, Part 4, Dead Men Tale... Wait, Dead Men Tale? Tale No Tales? I think that's a better that's a better title. No, it's Vampires Part 4, Dead Men Tell No Tales.
That's still wrong.
What do you mean? Tell some tales. Tell a few tales? Tell an equally summed amount of tales.
You're telling us something.
There sure is something.
Here's the thing, we're not listening, so it's fine.
Good start. Good start.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna leave that the way it is. We can continue.
Avast! In this episode, we'll be jumping on our Spelljammers and heading into Wildspace to see what we can learn about the undead buccaneers and suckaneers that terrify the cosmos.
You can be mad at Adam for that one.
Yep.
That was specifically for you as well. So
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep it going.
Yeah, keep going. We're almost there.
yeah. Before we blast off, I want to ask, are vampires only meant to be sexy, tragic, and scary? Or is there room for comedy in this discussion too?
I feel like we're pretty comedic when we talk about vampires and how they operate. Like I feel like we have equal amount of laughs, equal amount of allure, equal amount of oh damn, and like I feel there's equal parts here. But if the question here is Spelljammer good, the answer is no.
That wasn't even the question.
Because we're going to be talking about the Spelljammer nonsense in this episode. Mm-hmm. And none of us like Spelljammer, which is hilarious. But we'll find some inspiration for folks to use, I'm sure. But
yeah, I agree in that it can be comedic. I have watched plenty of comedic, vampiric based movies and series where it's the jovial, like ridiculousness of the fangs like shooting out from the gums, and it's just I think it's fun. It's fine.
Yeah, I think a good well-rounded vampire is perfect. Like, give me some comedy, give me some sexiness, most definitely. Throw some tragedy in there, and scary, which can sometimes go into sexiness. And so, they can be all of that.
You're not
There's
wrong.
room for all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of like some of the comedy movies that exist out there. Like, what is that Shadows one? Oh, What We Do in the Shadows. Like that one was a good. I don't know if you guys have seen that TV series or movie series. Like that one's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of like teeny bopper vampire ones out there nowadays that add a little bit of comedy. And like vampires in anime and manga are also usually pretty comedic. So yes, there is space for it. And yes, we as a group tend to laugh at them as well. So well, so before we jump into it, let's talk about what kind of vampires that we have covered so far, just so we can know where we're sitting. So when we talk about these ones, we can kind of mentally prep and prepare, of course, to give Adam a very knowledgeable and strategic rating at the end of this episode, right?
Absolutely. As we do every time.
Every time. All right. So we have covered many a vampiric friend. To start, vampires, first and foremost, we discovered slightly more complex than we like to remember. So a little bit of a debrief. They are shape-changing, bloodsuckers for life, misty escaping, children of the night. In fact, a sunburn will damage them greatly and immensely. They have a ton of fun layer actions such as dead, withering trees and fog, and can charm the shit out of you, along, of course, with their shape-shifting into being bats and all that kind of nonsense and shit. We did learn that there are a couple of different ones that turn into different types of animals. Absolutely, that's cool, and that's fine. They are a whopping CR 13, so do not fuck around with them. If you do, you will probably find out. You can kill the bitches with radiant damage or holy water. It kind of stops the regen ability. But to actually kill them, you have to reduce them to 0 hit points, which then turns them into dust. And then if they don't make it back to their resting place within 2 hours, they will perish. So destroy their resting place. Problem solved. We also reviewed the vampire spawns. These are usually the ones that turned victims of the proper vampire. They are only a CR of 5, have all the vampire weaknesses, such as not being able to enter a home, hate running water, and also sunlight. But most of all, a stake to the heart will, in their resting place, will kill them instead of just paralyzing them in comparison to the big bad vampire. Otherwise, that we also tapped into the Icewind Dale variants, like the Knoll and then the Kobold spawn, which were even lower around a CR3 and didn't have much to add and were much easier to kill. So we're very exciting. We also covered a lot of the variants, like the Spellcaster and the Warrior, which also were not overly extra, just a little more fancy versions and hyper-focused skills, like your Spellcaster had a couple magical abilities and spells, and your Warrior was a beefed-up fighter wearing armor. Awesome. And then in episode 29, we covered a few more of the famous ones like Strahd. Strahd is Strahd. If you don't know who that is by now, just go talk to Pepperina. But he, just for like the basics, he is a heavy hitting king of a CR 15. So this is a don't fuck around or you will absolutely find out. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, depending on what kind of campaign you're playing, if you know what I'm saying. And in the most recent episode, we talked about the thematic options such as the Nosferatu, the Jiangshi, and then other variants such as the Mind Drinker and the Blood Drinker. So the Nosferatu were labeled as the more feral and animalistic of the group. So they're the ones that were just like, we don't care, I'm going to kill it, I'm going to eat it, have a nice day. The Jiangshi were the vendetta vampires that rise due to a trapped soul that animates the body out of pure damn spite. So bewares. And then the Mind Drinker and the Blood Drinker, found in Ravnica, are hyper-specific, so to the fact that Mind Drinkers have psionic powers where the drink your blood and can determine your greatest emotions and fears, whereas the Blood Drinkers are the roguelike vampires that charm the shit out of you, and as it feeds, gains life equal to the damage that you take. So I remember Pepperina's comment, I think it might actually been Casey, aren't all vampires blood drinkers? And the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is all the ones that we've covered so far. So today we are going to be going into a little bit more of the Spelljammer ones, which we've already said a few times. So I'm going to let Miaca take it away, give us a little bit of lore here.
This is my first time kind of like looking at the actual like book Spelljammer, and so honestly it's giving heroes in space. If you like Spelljammer, I'm very happy for you and everything, and you know that's your opinion of the book. It's not my thing.
That's a you problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I like my space to be like, you know, space movies and, you know, something tragic is going on, but I don't want to play D&D in space. Well, it's just like another brand.
I feel like Spelljammer Space was just an excuse to throw a bunch of random shit into the air and say, oh, space.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That too.
Yeah.
So when one is adventuring within their campaign and look up at the night sky, and I've read this from the book, you're not just looking at like stars and being like, oh, it's so nice. You're actually looking at like a whole other damn world, and it's like another plane to like explore, kind of. And it's giving like there's a lot going on, and life should just really calm down in D&D. To me, I just see that as more work, and I don't want to do any more work. But that's just me. Not only I wrote here that not only do I have to be a hero down here, I might have to be a hero up there too, and I'm not having any of that.
It's one or the other. You don't get both. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get both from me. So the way the book describes it is like if you were to leave from like your world in D&D and you were to make your way outside of that world, you'll come across some sort of like a haze known as the Astral Sea, or like also known as the Silver Void. Eventually the stars will shine through and you'll be in a space where like Wildspace and the Astral Sea will like mix together, and this is known as the astral plane. Out here you can breathe normally, never age, and just exist indefinitely, which I thought was very interesting. That's one thing that kind of piqued my interest. You'll also need a boat of some kind, some type of vessel to explore, which can be powered by your mind, and you'll need a spellcaster to kind of help do that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. You'll also need to make sure you're well armed, because you're going to of course run into some creatures and some bad guys. To guide your ship, you're going to have to use a Spelljammer helm. And usually the captain uses this, or you'll learn later that there's another being that we'll probably use this. The pilot is called a Spelljammer, and in order to attune, you must be a spellcaster. So in order to attune to the Spelljammer helm, you must be a spellcaster. We're going to talk about the Vampirates today, and of course, you can find info on Vampirates in the book Spelljammer.
I would just like to take a moment and a beat here. Vampirates, stop it. Like Spelljammer, like sometimes I'm saying you're doing too much. In this one, you're not doing enough. Like you're like this.
It's like, what do you think we should call vampires that we're gonna put into space and they're gonna run pirate ships?
One guy was like vampire pirates, and the other, and someone at the table was like, nah, it should be vampirates. And they're like, yes, it should be, and that's what it is. So,
yeah. That's exactly how that conversation went.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet
3 minutes solved. Let's not spend any more time on this. Let's just move on.
Yeah, I don't want to spend any more story points on this. We're just gonna lock that in and call it a day, gentlemen. Like
and that I think was done consistently through the book.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like this episode is gonna get labeled "fuck you, Spelljammer," but like at the same time, like, we have to. Like, there's a lot of good inspiration in the book, but yeah, Miaca, please continue.
So first up, we have our typical vampirate. These are just dead pirates who refuse to cross into the afterlife. They basically continue what they did in life, which is just invading other vessels. They keep on living the dream. They also enjoy feeding off of the life energy from their victims. So not so much blood, just the life energy. So these are energy vampires. They look dry and have milky white eyes, and they do have fangs, but they don't use them. They rely on touch, or they're able to like drain you if they're within close proximity. It didn't go into like detail about that, but I guess like as a DM you can make up like how that would happen at your table. Yes, they do sleep. They sleep in wooden crates full of dirt, or they'll just rest in the cargo of their ships. I wrote chips. Sorry. All right, sorry. The cargo of their ships.
I would like to rest in a pile of chips.
Here's the thing though, if they're dry with milky white eyes, don't use their fangs, and like just sap energy for people, bitch is gonna need a lot of chips, you know? So
there you go.
How else do you keep your salt content up? Yeah.
I feel like they are. Yeah, I feel like they would. These are not really attractive to me.
No,
but I'm sure
not attractive. Yeah.
No. Fun fact though, they usually have shadows on board, and we talked about shadows in a earlier episode. Don't know what episode that was, but it was a few episodes back. But they usually have shadows on board from their past victims. Next, we have the vampire captain, and this is probably the coolest out of the vampirates. The mood of the ship depends on the captain. So if you have a captain who's just like a huge murder hobo and it's just like, it's just all about death and like, let's kill everyone, the group of vampires will like be like, okay, we're doing the same thing too. But let's say the vampirate captain is like proper, like chivalrous, like, charming and sexy, and it's like, oh, we're like at a ball 24/7 on this ship. Like the vampires will still mimic the vampirate captain, so they're going to be proper as well, and they'll follow the lead. So that's pretty cool. So like a lot of choices.
That's the ship that you would want to be on, Miaca, right?
Exactly. That is a ship you can find me on with the vampires. Let's go. I want to do that story. Finally, the Vampirate Mage. Not a lot about this one. Since a spellcaster is required to control the spellcaster helm, a Vampirate Mage's only job is to work the helm, and that's it. Which I feel like is a little bit contradictory, because like I read before that like only like the captain controls the ship. So to see that the vampires have like assigned someone to work the helm is interesting. So
as long as they're a spellcaster, I think is the main thing. But
Right.
to your point though, like if we look at even in Salt Marsh, when we look at like running a ship, there are very specific officers that are only allowed to navigate and stuff like that. So it makes sense. But what we're going to do for the rest of this episode is we're going to go down through the stat blocks of the ones that Mia mentioned, and then we are, of course, going to try and see if we can find some sweet, sweet inspiration from this very colorful childlike book. I'm going to start with the base Vampirate. So these are a medium undead that are typically lawful evil. They have a natural armor of 14 and they have a general speed of 30. So far, you bore me. They are above average scores of strength, dex, and charisma, with constitution being their number one stat at +4. Not bad. With intelligence and wisdom at above an average of 0. Sorry, or at 0 is for their intelligence and wisdom. So they're not dumb. They're averagely intelligent. They have most of the same undead vulnerabilities and immunities, as well as known languages it did have in life, making it only a CR of 2. I would like to point out that regular vampires, not in Spelljammer, are CR 13.
Yeah.
Regular vampires in space, 2. May I just suggest that it might be because they don't use their teeth? Just
yeah.
a wild guess. All right, so anyways, but there is something that makes them slightly interesting as a whole. So they do have an ability called Explode. And what this is that basically if a vampire reaches 0 hit points, they explode into a cloud of ash. And anyone within the 5-foot radius must make a DC 14 con save or take 1d10 necrotic damage. So not a whole heck of a lot, but cinematically interesting, shall we say. So we're used to our classic vampires poofing off into like dust, right? So it's almost like you'd expect that when you see something with fangs. But no, this will actually hurt you. They don't just turn to dust, they explode, which is a little bit different. They also have spider climb and unusual nature, which means that they can climb on walls and they don't need air or drink. And as actions, they have that energy drain. So a ranged spell attack of +4 to hit. So this is kind of what Miaca was speaking to in terms of they don't bite you, but they do sap your energy from you from a distance. So it's called energy drain. It's a ranged spell attack of +4 to hit and 2d10 necrotic damage. If you're reduced to 0 hit points with the attack, you do automatically die and then become a shadow that is now in control of the DM. So that's the big thing that makes them different from a regular vampire is this sapping ability. So instead of the biting, taking damage, making saves, so on and so forth, it's just a dude bro talking at you and sucking the life out of you from a distance. Yeah. As actions, the only other action they have is that they have a crossbow. Yay. I wish I was more enthused. You know what I mean? Like I wish I was
so
more
random. Like, random. Okay. Crossbow.
Yeah.
Like I just can't. So I feel like we are going to get into some comedy in this and like when we roll for inspiration. So that's why I say at the very beginning of this episode that there is room for comedy in vampires because it's going to get real in the next little while. So let's raise some dice. I've got some questions. Let's talk about inspiration about the classical vampirate.
Well, I rolled a natural 1. So that's on par for this fucking book.
You got a what?
A 1.
A 1? Good start. What about you, Miaca?
13.
13. All right. I rolled a 11. So Miaca, you are first. So we are going to start off as we do with role-playing tips and tricks. So this can be anything from either a quest or a plot hook that you can think of to use with vampirates, potentially maybe a one-shot interaction that you might do, or just generalized role-playing tips that you would have for a DM. What do you think?
Honestly, you could make them like super boring. Like what's the guy's name from What We Do in the Shadows? The one with the glasses who is actually an energy vampire. Colin something. I forget what his last name is.
I don't remember what their names are at all. Hold on here.
You can see Megan's Googling.
I'm Googling. It's my job here. Sorry, internet, for listening to my tackies on my computer here. Colin Robinson,
yeah.
Yeah.
You could make them like if I guess if you're charismatic enough as a DM, like you can just make the interaction with your players just very, very boring and like maybe talking your players in circles and stuff like that. And that's how I would play it if you want to like be funny about it. If you don't want to go for like the whole fighting aspect of it and trying to fight vampires and stuff.
Yeah.
If your table's very like role play heavy and stuff, have fun with it and actually try to like drain your players' energy.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
you know, like why not?
No, for sure. Like I feel if you're not playing in a traditional Spelljammer Space Pirates themed like actual campaign, they can be a little bit difficult to wheel in there, right? But like you can bring them in, and then just, you know, they are typically more boring, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to go the comedy route too, in terms of trying to think of like a campaign that would fit in if I didn't want to do a particularly fighty campaign. And this is the one shot that I came up with in my mind, because I was thinking of comedies like What We Do in the Shadows and shit like that. And I could just imagine a family reunion of vampires. And like these are like the distant cousins that like, well, like that just fled away. They're like the Hicks, the second cousin Hicks that show up, you know, with like weird food from space that no one is gonna eat, but puts it down anyways. Like, you know, and then they just start bickering and making fun of each other for the fact that, oh, you have to get energy by actually like biting someone and putting your mouth on someone. That's gross. And then they're like, yeah, but you have fangs for no fucking reason. So like and I feel like I would say everybody rolls a vampire from anywhere XYZ, and you are all coming to a family reunion. And that would be my one shot. Like
That's perfect.
yeah, I thought it was cute.
Love that.
Adorable. Well, I always think like, okay, so just like if you could do a one shot where you start off lost at sea, right? And then you're waiting for a ship to come along to save you. So I feel like a similar scenario could happen in space, since you like live forever. So you could find yourself lost in space, and you're floating aimlessly, just waiting for a ship to come along. And guess what ship comes along? Yeah. First you think, oh, great, I'm being saved. They look a little weird, but it's fine. And then they get closer and closer, and as they're going to help you up, you start feeling like this tug on your life, and you're like, wait a second. What's happening here?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So in terms of exploration, so this could be anything from, of course, environmental interactions, or if you want to focus on just any existential horror or body horror. I mean, you did describe them quite well, Miaca, or any spells or abilities that you do find interesting about them.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to be like, they're going to have things on their ship that is like just so dated and just grungy looking, and like like I don't know, but like for some reason I'm thinking of you know, the pictures of the stuff that was in the Titanic that they took like in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's what I'm thinking like the stuff looks like. It just looks weird. It's just been sitting for just forever. It looks like one huge just haunted mansion but on like a ship.
Yeah, especially because in Spelljammer you can go from realm to realm and to like plane to plane, depending on what portal or whatever form of energy you find that you want to fly on. You would get access to so much other random crap, but it is just crap. Like it's like no matter what planet you go to, you're taking people's trash. Like
like this is what the vampirates are. They're just collecting the trash.
Yeah.
And trying to make.
I was thinking of like in terms of like you were trying to find one, or like hints towards the fact that you might have a ship of these near you, especially if you were in the Spelljammer setting. It would be interesting to come across a ship that has folks where it looks like their energy was drained, but there's no physical struggle, right? Like there's no slashes from swords, there's no gun wounds, there's no laser wounds, there's nothing. Everyone's just dead. And so it looks like there's a scuffle because everyone's in like battle ready positions, but they're just on the ground, look like they're sleeping, but they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what happened here? Right? Like in terms of like, but of course it's just as simple as there's a pirate ship floating around covered in vampirates going around sapping energy from those, like the people that it comes across, right? So that would be my hint that you're coming up to that there might be a vampirates ship floating around somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Casey?
The vampirates are so limited. Like there's not a whole lot to work with. So they have these shadows. This is like one aspect that's a little more interesting that they have on the ship. So like you could add some flavor in that, like you look at, if you're using your spyglass to see what's going on a ship that's either chasing you or you are trying to pursue it, and you see, you know, these creatures that look like pirates moving around on the deck. There is someone at the helm, but then you see these like like shadow figures moving around as well.
Mm.
You could try and play with like what's going on with those. Maybe they're like mopping the deck. I don't know. Or manning the cannon or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're definitely like the grunts, like doing like menial work and menial tasks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other aspect that maybe you could use for exploration is like you are trying to find not a pirate ship, but somebody that you know of. You're trying to seek their ship and you indeed find it. But for whatever reason, they're not like engaging with you, not acknowledging that you know each other. And as you get closer, you realize that the shadows that are on the deck are the crew from that you are trying to find, but they're all dead. And so like the vampirates are being sneaky and just like staying out of sight. But depending on how you want to role play the shadows, you could have them then your piece and your hint that something has gone awry and you have vampirates on your hands is that it's those shadow creatures that are up there, but you recognize them and you're like, oh no, like that's the captain from the whatever ship, but that something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, something has gone awry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Mhm.
Well, and then speaking of that, leading right into combat tactics. So anything from what does it take to hunt? Do they hunt? Or what happens when they die, Miaca?
When they die, I feel like they just, I don't know. I just feel like they just turn into dust because they're so dry. Like,
Right. They explode.
They explode. So these are the ones that have like that weird, like as if they hit 0 hit points, they literally explode into dust.
Yeah.
So it's
there
like
you go. Ooh, and if you breathe it in, it's like you take like 3 levels of exhaustion or something like that.
Ew.
Whoa.
There you go.
Gross.
Like they still get you in the end.
Yeah.
That's how they get.
Like, and this is the part that like I'm a little bit perplexed at too, like in terms of like do they hunt? I always imagine that vampires hunt because they require sustenance and food, right? When it comes to these ones, they just sap your energy. So I think that we're making the assumption that energy to them is food, because technically in their writing, it's the same as a vampire, that they don't require drink and sleep, but they do require food, which was the workaround for vampires and why they require to drink blood. For these ones, it's a little bit confusing again, because like we're just making the assumption, because it's not well written, sorry, Spelljammer, in terms of like that whatever it is energy they're sapping is actually their food source. So I almost wonder what in a combat situation why they would have that desire to sap your energy from you other than for defense, right? So
Yeah.
But I mean, with the assumption that they need it for consumption and they need it to like live and survive, then that makes sense. I feel like then, yes, they would hunt. They would be looking for other ships. They would be looking to sap the energy from them, create more shadows so they can have more shadows on their ship, or create boats that are just covered in shadows and don't have a proper captain or something like that, right? And then you get things like the Black Pearl that are just shadow run, right? Which I think would be super cool. But yeah, so if we're making the assumption that energy gathering for them is food and sustenance, then absolutely they do hunt, and that is what they are looking to do.
Yeah, and you could make that more clear that as a DM, that's your decision on how that's going to go. Like when they have their first successful life drain, like, you know, their cheeks look more full, or like, you know, suddenly the sunken dryness of their skin, it looks a little bit less dry.
Yeah.
They get a little bit of like life back into them with that energy. But I don't know. I feel like everything that they have laid out in the stat block is not really for them to come and try and board another ship if they're attacking. It's all range. Like they have a crossbow and then they have a range on their energy drain. So like they do have spider climb, but it's like I doubt their tactic will be to board another ship. They will go alongside and try to just from afar destroy everybody on that ship.
Could you imagine? Now I have this stupid visual in my head. A vampirate ship versus another vampirate ship. And they're just going side by side. No one is boarding the other side. No one's actually physically fighting each other. It's just a lot of trying to drain the energy from the other one before the other one drains the energy from them. What a stupid battle to have.
Heavy on the arg part.
Heavy on the arg.
Oh, I
Oh,
know.
Oh, honestly, honestly, like, good comedy can come out of these ones for me. This is the direction
Oh,
I am
yeah.
absolutely going with them. But oh Lord. All right, well, that is it for the classic Vampirate. So now we've got a couple of the other variations which Casey's through.
Starting off with the Vampirate Captain. As Miaca said, the Vampire Captain determines how their crew of vampirates conduct themselves, just as in life. But instead of a parrot or monkey companion, they tend to have an undead companion, like a crawling claw or a will-o-wisp, which adds some flavor and adds some comedy aspect. That is truly the extent of the description. So moving into the stat block itself, the Vampire Captain is very, very similar to the Vampirate, but does have a boost. It still is a medium undead and typically lawful evil. It has an AC of 15 with natural armor, a hit point average now of 85, and a typical player character walking speed of 30 feet. Their ability stats are all above average, with the lowest in intelligence and wisdom at still a +1 modifier, and the highest in con with +4. They have saving throws in con, wisdom, and charisma. And then they have this typical vulnerability to radiant damage, immunity to cold, necrotic, poison damage, and the charmed exhaustion and poison conditions. They have dark vision of 120 feet and a passive perception of 11. They know the languages they knew in life and have a proficiency bonus of +3, all to bring them up to a CR of 6. So we're getting a little bit better, almost half a vamp. So at this point, I'm mildly interested. It's like, okay, oh well. We've kind of generally described the typical vampire undead, and they have spider climb like like the regular vampirate, and unusual nature. Again, meh. And yeah, they do have a couple fun things, which is nothing extravagant. It's just a boost to that ability of exploding. When the Vampirate Captain is reduced to 0 hit points, it explodes into a cloud of ash, and if you are within 5 feet, you must make a DC 15 con save and take 3d10 necrotic damage. So it's a bigger bomb of ash.
Oh, it's just bigger.
It's just bigger. It's just beefed up a bit. And on that same trend, they carry a heavy crossbow with a
No way.
hit. And they deal 3d10 plus 3 piercing damage on a hit. And it does have uncanny dodge as a reaction, so that may make it a little bit harder to hit or destroy. Otherwise, it will use energy drain. It can use it as a melee or ranged spell attack, and here it defines it as a 30-foot range. Is that what it was for the regular Vampirate as well? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, see, boring. No, nothing different. Not even 50. Come on. And on a hit, it does deal a bit extra damage of 4d10 necrotic. And here is maybe where it gets slightly more interesting. A humanoid that is reduced to 0 hit points by this attack dies and instantly transforms into the free-willed shadow or vampirate at the captain's choice. So it can make vampirates.
You know what? Now we know how vampirates are made.
There we go.
By choice.
By choice. When the captain's lonely and
I'm sorry.
shadows. What?
The uncanny dodge reaction pisses me right off. Like, what is uncanny dodge? Like, what is that? Maybe it's using the word uncanny. Like,
yeah.
It's so stupid. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I can look it up. I got it right here.
Yeah, it's basically dodge.
Yeah, and it is called uncanny dodge, and it's basically, let me read it to you. The captain halves the damage that it takes from an attack that hits it, and the captain must be able to see the attacker in order to do so. And that is it. Thrilling, right?
So uncanny.
So uncanny.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can take a few more rounds, I guess, to destroy it, because it can use that potentially.
Fair enough.
And one final thing that might make it slightly more interesting is that it can also cause its ship and all creatures and objects aboard it to become invisible to creatures not aboard it. It must maintain concentration like it is concentrating on a spell, and it lasts for up to an hour. And it will end if the captain leaves the ship, and it recharges after a short or long rest. So basically, it can sneak up and then, end it when it's right next to you if you want, like next to your ship. Or if shit is going down, it could pop this off. And even if you're aboard the ship, you will then become invisible, and you may just watch your ship like search for you while you're invisible and leave you behind.
Oh my God.
I feel like this is a sneak up where it's like, that's where that uncanny dodge rogue-ish thing is coming in. It can sneak up by having everything invisible and then surprise attack you. Or if shit starts going completely wrong, it can make the ship disappear or go invisible, and then it can like book it away,
Fair enough. Okay.
That's it. That's all we got.
What about the mage?
I wish I had way more coming. So again, like the mage, or like Miaca said about the mage, on the pirate ship, it operates the spelljamming helm. Spelljamming or spelljammer? Shit. Spelljammer helm. Spelljamming helm. And Spelljammer helm, thank you. And it rarely, if ever, leaves the helm. It has very, very similar abilities and scores as the Vampirate captain. This time it's just taken down a peg. Like its AC is 14 instead of 15. It has 68 hit points instead of 85, but the same 30-foot walking speed. The ability scores are all still above average. Con still remains the highest, but the rest are reduced a little bit, except for wisdom bumps up slightly at +2, and intelligence remains at +1 at the lowest. So nothing to write home about there. No saving throw here in con, but still with wisdom and charisma. And it has the same damage vulnerabilities and damage and condition immunities. Dark vision, slightly higher passive perception at 12. That's because of that slight bump in wisdom. It knows the languages of new in life. And all of this to say it sits at a CR of 5, 1 point less than the Vampirate captain.
Amazing.
Yep. And it also can explode when it hits 0 hit points, doing slightly less necrotic damage, and has a slightly less DC on the con save. All the same abilities. It can transform a humanoid with energy drain only to a shadow, not a vampirate. It doesn't carry a heavy crossbow because it's manning the helm. That's all it gets to do.
Yeah, you get nothing. You get nothing. Yeah.
And finally, to somewhat justify that it's called a mage, there is some spells. Don't get too excited. It can multi-attack with 2 Ray of Cold attacks. The one thing is it does have a long range of 120 feet and 1 target, and will do 2d8 plus 2 cold damage on a hit. And it uses charisma to cast a couple things. It can cast Mage Hand and Message at will. Once per day, it can cast Darkness, Dimension Door, Fly, and Hypnotic Pattern. And
so basically all escapist spells, essentially, is what it's been given. So
it runs away, basically?
Yeah, and I guess if it's manning the helm, like it's being told where to drive the ship. I don't know. I am so underwhelmed by this. Like, I can't even.
I'm not even whelmed. I am underwhelmed.
So we have a few spells that it can do.
Hilarious.
I don't know.
All right. I mean,
I'm having a big yawn right now. All right, we're done. Okay. I'm sure we can find something inspiring and fun to do with these. Let's raise some dice and ask a round of questions for the last time here. 14. Oh.
13.
Great. All right. I will start first then. So obviously we always start off with role-playing ideas. So again, ladies, this could be anything from a quest or a plot hook idea, a one-shot interaction that you could come up with, any of the descriptions that potentially inspire you, or possibly just go to our basic, any kind of role-playing tips you would have for DMs. Here's my one-shot with this one. And again, we're going comedic route with Megan today. You were on a ship in Spelljammer. Your ship got taken over by these. You have been captured. Now you are stuck on this ship with these vampirates. Scary, I know. And the one that frees you is the mage. The ship is on rest. Everybody's gone down for their evening time or what have you, and they've come to free you. And they're freeing you because they want more from their life. They basically come down to the jail cells and say, "Hey, I will help you escape if you take me with you, and train me and help me do better." And then this becomes your wizard's apprentice or your warlock's apprentice or what have you, right? Because they just want something better for their life, like somewhere out there, like Fievel Goes West, singing into the sky. Like I just. And anyone who got the Fievel Goes West, like, or American Tail reference, I hope that you heard the song in your head. But...
Absolutely.
God damn it, I absolutely fucking did, Megan. Fuck.
But that's what I'm imagining from this poor mage sitting at the helm, is that they're just waiting for someone to come and rescue them.
I just want to beat up the mage so bad. I don't know why. I just want to.
Because like we board the ship, they're the first to go. Like,
yeah, like it's just a waste of time.
And they can't even defend themselves. They'll just like, mage hand.
Yeah.
It's like as a spellcaster myself in D&D, I would be so disappointed. God, I guess this is my turn. I guess for the captain, I don't know. I really like the whole they can make everyone invisible and like it can kind of be like a little surprise thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would see putting your players in a position where they're on a ship that's like abandoned. You paint the picture of an abandoned ship. They're on there for like a while. And then I guess they get into like the ballroom of the ship or whatever, because I feel like there would be one.
In Miaca's world, all ships have ballrooms. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Screw the galley. Screw it. We have a ballroom.
Like apparently it's giving Titanic to me. I don't know why, but it is.
I accept.
But yeah, that's the captain. But for the mage, I was honest before you said it, Megan, I was honestly thinking of like going in that direction. Like I just see the mage as just someone who like just doesn't want to be there. Wants to leave.
Well, they're more intelligent than like their vampirate brethren. So it's kind of like
yeah.
Kevin, go away. I have a job to do. Like
yeah. Like they could like become an ally pretty quick. So I mean, but at the same time, I just have no respect for it at all. Like
no
I'll be like, yeah, okay, yeah, like okay, like I'll let you help me, but I'm leaving you here. Like, like at the last minute, you can't come with me.
No.
So those are my feelings.
Oh Lord. What about you, Casey? Any ideas for the captain or the mage?
Well, I did like get some Captain Barbossa vibes from like the captain descriptor about having like it's kind of a fun spin for them to have like a crawling claw or will-o-wisp floating around them. I would maybe use this one as your biggest like role play and introduction. Like say, I don't know how it works actually in Spelljammer, but you know, like if you're at the docks in space and you're looking for a ride and then you're walking like to the ships and then you encounter the vampire captain because you notice that there's like this glowing orb around them if it's at night, or you notice there's like a crawling claw like wandering along the deck. It's like, what the hell is going on here? And I think you could then add some flavor to the character itself, like that Barbossa style. And everything's just going to be bizarre because they're vampire. So I think you could use that as maybe an intro where like you're needing a ride and pretty much your best option is making a deal with this like Vampirate captain, and you could play it a little bit more like Barbosa.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool.
Barbosa of space.
Space Barbosa. Like here's the thing. So we're gonna move into the exploration pillar in terms of possible environmental interactions or any horror dread that you can add to these ones that you can think of, or just like how to find them like that, or if you know they're around. So I was kind of thinking of the captain's like minion that it has with it, and the fact that it could be anything that it wants. It's just kind of like it's either an undead something or other or an undead body part. Again, going the full comedy route, the one shot. This is the captain's conference. All the captains are coming around to conference about what it's like to be a vampirate captain. And it's just, and then in the other room is all of their little minions hanging out together. Your group finds yourself on this planet where they decide to meet for this conference once every millennia. And the first room you come across is this room full of all these tiny minions, all these little undead minions. And then you start murdering these said undead minions. And then you have to go and you have to like, then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, there's a whole room full of captains whom all of these minions belonged to.
Yeah, you exploded some vampirate captain's undead monkey. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh my god. Because you wouldn't think anything of it. You just see these severed limbs coming at you or like what have you, right? You're like, what is happening? And it's just like, no, it's just it's the annual vampirate captain conference. Like, are you
Ridiculous.
No patience for
but then
this
you
at all.
but then you can role play the corporate vampirate, and I love the whole concept of putting corporate speech into D&D, because so many millennials of our age or older are so good at corporate speech because that's how we were raised and how we were brought up in terms of our working generation. And I would love to bring that more into my D&D gameplay and being able to be like, use your corporate speech in some way, shape, or form. And I think this is the perfect way to do that. And so if we're thinking about environmental interactions, you go to this conference, everyone speaks corporate.
And the stats hold up to make that pretty feasible.
Yeah, they're just having there's like a presentation going on in the background on someone's Zoom, and it's just like, it's like, the Q4 results came in this year, and it looks like we're down at least 7% in severed heads. So what are we going to do to rectify that going into Q1 next year? Or else we're going to have to make some cuts, guys. Like,
Literally
some cuts, gentlemen.
Oh my god.
Anyways, that was my long-winded exploration pillar conversation. But what about you, Miaca? Anything that you could think of?
Oh Jesus. I would say like the captain, as far as body horror would go, I kind of see them as like the oldest, maybe like the oldest deadest vampirate on the ship. So
Yeah.
I guess you could kind of bring in a lot of that like undead aspects. Like maybe you can see the ribs, like, you know, you can kind of see like the organs are probably still there, but they're just very dusty and just look very like frail or whatever. They dress nice, but they're still like they're very much dead.
Yeah, I can see them overcompensating in their dress because of how like gaunt and gross and pale and dusty they look. So they like overcompensate with their wares, right? Yeah.
Missed opportunity to have. Sorry, go ahead, Miaca. Are you done?
Oh no, yeah, I am. I realized the first time I went, I talked about the mage, but we're gonna run through it again, right? With the mage.
This is more of a just talk whatever you want to talk about. So go ahead.
Yeah.
What about the mage?
Yeah.
I just feel like environmental interactions, just seeing them like run around this, like they know everything about the ship, but at the same time they only have like one job, so they may know like the secret passageways or something. Like if you get this mage to help you get off this ship, like they know where to go and they can like lead the way and stuff like that. They know like what's going on over here at this time or what's going on over there. You know, just yeah.
No, that's a good idea. Like,
this.
because they have the most time on their hands, right? They're just standing there manning this helm. Like, obviously, they're going to be sitting there reading their smut novel, or they're like, they just are researching and watching everybody on the ship. So they know the comings and goings, everybody's routine. Like when the captain shows up for breakfast, when the captain goes down for his nap, like they know the entire schedule of the ship. Like, that's awesome.
Exactly.
That's smart. Smart.
Yeah, I see a missed opportunity with the spell list. Why couldn't they have had some illusion spells where they make their like outfits look pristine or make the ship not look like a pirate ship, so that it's just another tactic for them like deceiving who's coming on board? Like maybe you don't realize it's a pirate ship because there's an illusion on the captain to make them look like a normal captain. And then once you're on board and you're out in space and you have nowhere to escape to, it's dropped. And then like the true nature of the pirates are as vampirates is revealed.
Yeah.
That could have been a fun thing to do with the spellcaster piece.
Yeah, I feel like you could do like for their once per day, it would be like major illusion. But then for their like daily cantrip of prestidigitation, so that they can clean things quickly, right?
Yeah, something like that for more of the deceiving sneakiness that they're trying to allude to with the captain. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be something kind of fun with like deceiving the environmental aspect, like looking at it, it doesn't quite look the way, or it looks the way you are expecting, but then the reveal is that it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Finally moving on to the combat options. So in terms of either the captain or the mage, this is things like how does it hunt? Does it hunt? How do you hunt it? Or any other of the combat tactics that it has that inspire you or interest you, or loot ideas is one that we don't talk about often, but I think because we're talking about vampirates, loot will probably be a good one to speak of, because I feel like if these, so I go first anyway, so we'll start. So talking about loot, I feel like because they're, again, the energy that they're sapping in my mind and in my world right now is their food and their sustenance. It's not something that they gather or collect for anything other than keeping themselves going, keeping themselves alive. However, maybe there's a very specific energy from a certain, like, I don't know, planet or a certain like life force that it can sap, that they utilize it and can like turn it into some kind of a magical component. Like maybe their ship has a strong shield around it that no other ship does because they have the ability to sap this very specific energy. So people are actually looking for vampirates and vampirate captains to be on their ships so that they can mine this very specific type of energy, right? And that's what these pirate ships are looting, is actually just going from place to place to planet to mine a very specific type of energy source to make spell components or have certain spells pop off or make shields for their armory or something like that, right? Or it's used to infuse weapons with magic. So suddenly all of your vampirates and your vampire captains have magical crossbows. Like, I don't know. I thought that would be really cool in terms of like loot that they collect, but
you've made loot so exciting.
You're welcome.
It's the most exciting thing. I'm into it.
I'm trying really hard to make these things sound interesting.
You are doing so well.
All right, Miaca, what about you in terms of combat? What about the captain or the mage, either or? Anything that inspires you there?
This is just hard. Like I don't see them as a threat. I just don't. I know they have, what they have as far as combat and their freaking crossbows and stuff, but it's just like how would you hunt it? Maybe if you're chasing like their vessel across the galaxy. Maybe you're coming across like victims who are like kind of losing memory or something like that because their lives are being drained. Maybe there's just gaps in specific people's memories at certain taverns or something like that, and the last thing they remember is like a charming captain of a ship was in town or something like that.
Yeah.
And so maybe, and then like maybe your party is like just chasing down this captain who's just like doing the most.
Yeah, like where did they go next and how do we find them? Like, and that's the adventure that you're going on. Yeah.
And you find out like, little by little. Yeah.
And then for like the mage, as far as loot, I just see them with like a bunch of keys. I guess it's kind of going into the environmental interactions thing I was talking about, but like they just have a bunch of keys on them, and because they know how to open each door or like whatever. They just have a lot of stuff that they've accumulated that no one cares about, but like it's very precious to them. Like I don't know, it's a lot you can do there, but yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got.
It's good. It's good. What about you, Casey? I was gonna call you Kiesa.
I like that.
Yeah, like I'm about it.
Yeah.
Well, if you like, again, we have leveled up with the Vampirate Captain and the Vampirate Mage from the regular Vampirate in very, very similar ways, but everything is still just slightly further ranged in their attack. Like, it's a heavy crossbow, so it can shoot farther. It's Ray of Frost, which has 120-foot range. Like, we're still not boarding the other ship. We're still just staying on our own ship, trying to destroy the other ones so we can just raise them as shadows or other vampirates that can float across or hop across. They can, I don't know, like, it's just like, they've got a tactic that's kind of, it's strategic, but in fighting them, like, you're gonna just be chasing them because they're just going to keep moving further back from you. They're never going to try and like melee attack or board or anything.
Yeah, and they're not going to let you board their ship, so they're just going to be constantly running, using, and like the mage would use their darkness so that they so that everything becomes, if the invisibility goes away, they have darkness to turn them into darkness. If they want, they can use their mage, what is the door, dimension door, to get them and the captain off the ship if it's going down, right? So there's all kinds of escapism in their nonsense. So
totally. And yeah, like, they don't even have to go collect the corpses because they can just raise them and the vampirate will just make its way across, and then the same with the shadows. So it's just like, maybe that is something that you end up seeing too, like we talked about, some like a slaughter situation, but also there might be just fully abandoned ships that are just floating and there's no bodies because they've all just been like raised again. And now you have a fleet of vampirate ships because they've just like are picking it up and they got too many people. I don't know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on these vampirates before we wrap up this episode?
Missed opportunities to make the spellcasting piece more interesting.
It's fair.
Agreed.
I came up with another funny one-shot idea.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I came up with one for the vampirates. I came up with one for the vampire captain. Here's one for the mages.
All right.
The pirate ship race Olympics. They just meet every 4 years in somewhere in the galaxy. And it's the mages that come with their mind power so trained that it's just a boat race across the galaxy. And it's just the mage and their ship.
Yeah. And they're allowed like 5 shadows to like help
like man the sails and stuff like that, but otherwise it's just them and their ship, and like I just want to be the commentator on that, like I just
my god,
I hate
Megan,
Spelljammer.
you were on tonight with that,
but I hate Spelljammer and I'm trying really hard to like it.
We had a family reunion, we had a corporate conference
for the captains, and then we have the Olympic boat race for the mages.
Love it.
You're welcome.
And they're just all so happy. And that's the thing. Like, they're just so content and happy.
Yeah, everyone's in a good
It's their afterlife, or lack thereof.
And they will have every Olympics till the end of time.
So good. So good.
Yep.
All right.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10 skeletal parrots, how would you rank these creatures as part of the undead landscape in D&D 5th edition? Starting with the Vampirate.
0. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. 0.
1 for me.
Miaca, you're too gracious.
Maybe higher if the captain is like evil, like because
but you're gonna rate the captain separately though. So just the vampirate on its own.
Oh well, yeah, just 1.
1.
Okay. The CR2 vampires.
Yeah. 0. So Miaca's a 2. I'm a 0. Well, sorry, Miaca's a 1. I'm a 0. Casey, what are you?
0.5.
Split the difference. I like it. I like that about you. Yeah. Really changing the bell curve here.
Yeah, just to mix things up, because we do this quite like standardized, so we need to mix it up a little bit with a 0.5.
You're right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
There you go. Yep.
All right, Vampirate Captain next. CR6. Has a heavy crossbow.
Based on the last quarter's KPIs, I'm going to give them a solid 1.5.
Partially meets expectations.
Partially meets expectations. Needs improvement in all areas. We're going to put you on a PIP, Captain.
Two.
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 Let's keep this theme going. Casey, what about you?
I'm going to say he delivered on 25% of what I wanted, so 2.5 out of 10.
Solid delivery. You're not wrong. Okay.
Finally, the mage.
The mage. Okay. Depending on which country I was rooting for during the last Olympics,
Yeah, key.
I'm going to say that I would give the mage a 0.5. But here's the thing. I'm going to give it sportsmanship points because I feel so sorry for it. So they're going to get a solid 3.5.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're going to give it a big jump for the sportsmanship points because, like, you know what? They're a good sport in doing their job,
Oh, okay. Nah.
Just meh.
I'm not afraid of you, so it's 0. I'm going to leave the mage. I'm not going to help the mage. I'm not going to help the mage. I'm not afraid of you. You're just the key holder. You're just trying to help everyone.
You're just the key holder.
That's it. 0.
Excuse me, mage. I'd like to speak to your manager. You're just the key holder. And you're
pretty much
amazing.
The immense disappointment I had in my heart when I saw that spell list, it has to be lower than the Vampirate Captain, because I'm just like, I can't. At only 1 point lower in CR, it is many points lower in my scale. I'm giving it a 1. That's
Look
it.
at you. Harsh days for vampirates, guys. It's hard. It's hard out there to be vampire. No wonder they're failing their quarterly and monthlies.
Yeah. There's no team lunches being given out.
Jesus.
No pizza party for anyone.
No pizza whatsoever.
So good.
Now it's time to close the casket on this part of our conversation on Undead in D&D 5th edition. If you'd like to discuss what you've heard here today, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and at r/itsAmimic. For more episodes on monsters and other D&D topics, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bring Out Your Undead. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, www.itsmimic.com, as well as a store and a Patreon. You can check out the show notes for more details. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get. I can just see the editor of this would be like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like,
yeah.
We did what we could. Megan, honestly, you brought the humor, and it is what we needed. Maybe not what we deserved, but we needed it.
I live to serve, guys. I live to serve. But I just, yeah. After having like a solid like episodes of scary vampires and vampires that are like sexy, scary to the intro of this like episode,
Yeah,
the humor was all that was gonna get us through this one in my mind. Like, good sports, good sports.
Idea,
Oh my god. So now we can keep talking about how ratchet it was at the bachelor party.
I'm telling y'all now, I have no patience for Spelljammer in space.
No one does. No one has patience for Spelljammer.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we all hate it. So it's going to be a great episode.
Mhm.
So I'm just wanting to confirm because I've got the Vampirate Captain and Vampirate Mage.
Yeah.
And so our inspiration piece, it says to go twice. So am I pausing between so we do inspiration, or am I just going through both and
Go through both.
we'll do them together?
Yeah.
Totally fine with that. If I'm being completely honest, and I'll say this later on, the Vampire Mage was epically disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I believe it.
ooh, oh, well,
Oh,
that's fucking boring, but okay.
well, that sucks. Yeah. No, it's going to be
Oh.
all right.
Okay, I will,
Okay.
I will do as much then. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, great. Avast. Avast. In this episode, we'll be jumping on our Spelljammers and heading into. Okay, I'm starting this over.
Start that over. You're doing so great.
Okay.
Absolutely. Excuse me. I'm burping inside my body right now. Just give me a second. We're going to get through this episode, I promise.
Oh, it's my turn. Oh,
Take us home, Miaca. Take us home.
Please, please do.